comes on the lemon tree. Should be good for the old gin and tonics. Good morning. Today we're going to make a beer a la peaty style. Not the way you should make beer, but it's the way I make beer and I like it, so it works for me. Today I'm going to be using the Hopcat, which I've been using for probably 3 years now, 4 years maybe, something like that. Beforehand I used to make it in a big jam bucket with a gas boiler on the bottom, and it used to work, but it was very labour intensive. I had to be on it all the time, so you'd have to keep your eye on it and see what was going on, make sure the boil was okay and didn't overboil or boil over and put the gas out, which quite often used to happen. With the Hopcat, it's just a lot easier. You just program it, set it to what you want it to do, it goes off and does it. Then you come back hour and a half later, put it onto its next stage, and that's it. So simple pimple. Okay, we're over here at the Hopcat. We're going to make an amber beer. Let's get started. I'm looking forward to it. Cheers. Oh. Here we go. So we're going to chuck
What are you up to there then?
some hot water goes in there. It's literally fresh out the tap, so no special boiling or anything like that. So it's just come out the tap, and what I'm going to do is set the computer to 65 degrees, and then we'll put the grains in. I think today we'll probably go for a Jacob's Ladder with some East Kent Goldings hops as a finishing hop, which hopefully will bring it, hopefully it'll taste a little bit like speckled hen, if everything works well. If everything works well, excuse me. Okay, where are we? Manual pause. We just need to get the temperature up to 65 degrees. So here we've got it on boiling at the moment. It needs to come down. So at the bottom just there, we need to get that down to 65 degrees. I'm going to go over the top here, aren't I? I'm going to do too much, I always do. Oh, 64 point. Okay, 65 degrees. The power is going to be at about 2.5 kilowatts. So we need to run that up to 2.5 kilowatts. And the timer, 90 minutes for the mash. So that's set at 90 minutes. And we press start, and there's a little flashing light up the top which says it's heating. So that's going to heat up to 65 degrees. When it gets up to 65 degrees C, we're going to put in our grains. Oh. Which of these? Don't look at the Okay, so what we have here is a mix of pale malt, crystal malt, a bit of Cara malt just to help with the head retention and flavours, and also a little bit of chocolate malt which just adds to the colour and for me makes it taste nice. So what we do is we'll pour that in and stir it up and make sure everything is okay.
Oh, what's that?
Ah, now that is my brew stick. I've had that for 16 years, I suppose. And it always comes out just to stir the mash.
And what's,
Make
this,
sure everything's all nice and wet.
and what's so special about that stick?
It was just something I cut off the walnut tree, and I had a pile of logs waiting to be cut up and put onto the log pile, and I needed something to stir the beer before I got my Hopcat. It was done in just a big bucket, and I needed something to stir it, and I just picked the stick up, cut the end off, done that, and thought, actually that works. So it's been with me ever since. It's starting to split and show its age a little bit, but I did actually put some markers on there, gallon markers, of what it looked like when it was in the old bucket. Doesn't work on this one, but it still stirs it okay. They did send me a nice paddle,
But you prefer your stick.
but I prefer my stick.
So that came with the Hopcat.
The paddle came with the Hopcat, as did lots of other bits and bobs. The jacket, great help. The little thing for the hops, which I must admit I don't use for the hops. I tend to use that for getting rid of the trub when it comes out of the boiler, which we'll do a little bit later. We'll show that. But yeah, so basically that's in there. That's set for 90 minutes. When the temperature comes up to 65 degrees, as soon as it's up to 65 degrees, a small alarm will go off. That will keep that at 65 degrees. I'll turn the pump on, which basically just recirculates everything and just keeps all the fluids going through the top of the grains and keeps everything happy.
So what else came with the Hopcat? Was there? I remember you said something about a cooling coil.
Oh, the cooling coil. Yes, sorry, there was a cooling coil which I've got just down there, which came with. That is quite ingenious, because in the early days it used to go into the fermenting bucket, and I used to have to sit it into the fish pond that we've got just around the corner, which you can't see because it's covered in God knows what else now. But yeah, that used to sit in there, and it would take, I don't know, 45 minutes I suppose to cool it down, so it wasn't really quick enough.
You didn't have to pay extra for that or anything. That was
No, that was all part of the equipment. And I think actually when we bought the Hopcat, it was the most reasonably priced one with the extras that you're gonna need or would like, but they were all included. Because they were included, it got my vote.
Yeah.
You know,
so you'd have to spend
it's
a lot
not the
more.
only one on the market by any stretch of the imagination, but it was the one that suited our costs and our requirements, and with the extras it just sold it to me. So that's what we went for. Okay, so we're about 64 degrees at the moment. Normally what I'll do is just keep an eye on it, make sure everything's going well. 64 degrees, not far to go, so I'm going to put the lid on and put the little recirculatory pipe in, which all that does is takes the liquor from the bottom and puts it over the top, so it just keeps it circulating, so we get as much liquid around the grains as possible, so to pull off as much sugar and flavour as we can. So with that in there, the alarm just went off to tell me it's 65 degrees, so I'll turn the tap on, turn the pump on, and now that is pumping from the sump of the Hopcat to the top of the Hopcat. There we go. So that's just, and we'll see, the longer it pumps, the darker the beer will get. It's going to be an amber beer, akin to the Speckled Hen, as I said. So we'll be looking for a nice amber colour on that in probably about 15 minutes. Okay, just coming out to have a little look, see how we're getting on. Hey, starting to get a bit of colour in the old beer now. We're about 20 minutes in. So that's looking pretty good. What I tend to do with this is just turn the lid every so often, just so the liquor goes onto another bit of grain, and I don't know, it's just me, it's what I do. It's about now, we have to go inside and sample some.
Cheers.
Cheers!
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, we've got a little while to wait, probably about 50 minutes before the Hopcat's ready.
A hard old life then.
Time for a couple of beers. Okay, that sounds like the alarm going off. We'll just come in and have a little look. Oh yep, that's all finished. I just need to reset the timer now. So we're going to reset the temperature to boiling because we need to boil the wort. So I shall be turning off the pump. And lifting up the mash. The drain. There we go, that will sit on the side there. Fine. And we need to go. Temperature, we need it to boil. So we'll raise that up to boiling temperature, boiling point. Takes a little while, sorry about that. That'll go. There we go, so that's on boiling. The power, we're going to leave it 2.5 kilowatts at the moment. And the timer we're going to have for another 90 minutes. There we go, 90 minutes. Manual pause. And start. So that's now going to come up to boiling point while the mash is sitting here draining. What we need to do is sparge it, which is to wash the grains and to get all the goodness from the grains back into the hop, which I'm going to attempt to do now, but I don't do it traditionally because I haven't got the equipment at the moment. But hopefully when I do, it will be done properly. Okay, just coming through with my second jug to sparge. It's not the way it should be done, but at the moment I haven't got the equipment, so I'm just literally rinsing that, and I shall leave that to drain. We're gonna take probably about 25 minutes to bring it up to boiling point. We're at 68.4 at the moment, so we'll bring it up to boiling point. We'll come back and have a little look at it later, and hopefully all the juice will have gone down into the barrel. Let's hope. Beer time. Okay, there we go. We're up to 100 degrees now. Hopefully most of the juice has come out of that. So we'll drop him in there. And the chickens can have that when they're ready. We've got a nice rolling boil going at the moment, so what I'm going to do, because I'm a tight git, is turn the current down. So I'm going to take it down to 1000 watts rather than 2.5. We've got a rolling boil. Boil will roll on 1000 watts, so that's what I'm going to take it down to. So we just press that little button there. We go power, and we take it down to, oh, that's 800. That's a little bit too. 9,000 watts. There we go. Press that, press start again, and off she goes. So she's boiling. We continue with the rolling boil, or we will do in a minute. And once that's up to boiling point, I'm going to put in some sugar, which is just a brown cane sugar. Nothing special. So we're getting a bit of a boil going on there. So I'll put that in there. Okay, so these are hops that we've grown in the field up the top. They're Prospect. There's 150 grams in there. They're picked, they're put into a shrink wrap bag and then frozen. And then I pull them out when I'm ready, put them into my special piece of equipment, which actually is a vegetable bag. And it, you can pick them up pretty readily. And like they say, every little helps. Bit of a clue. So I just put a little knot in that. Launch that in there with the sugar that's already going. And my rolling boil. Put the lid on. And go and have another beer. So what we're going to do here is just open up a bag of commercial hops. These ones, these Kent Golding, 100 grams in there. All I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off 50 grams and use them as a finishing hop in there for the last 15 minutes of the boil, along with the cooling coils and the little hop flask and anything else that I want to sterilize before we go to the next process, which is cooling down and putting it into the fermenting bin. There we go, we've got 15 minutes to go now. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in our little tablet that pulls all the proteins down to the bottom. That'll take about 15 minutes for that to work. But also what we're going to do is we need flavouring hops that will go in. So we'll just lob them in there. And the other thing we need to do is get a little circulation pipe. We need to sterilise that because that's going to take liquid through it. And the other thing we need is this, which goes into the fermenting bin to filter out all the trub. So that goes in, and the main thing is the cooling coil, which is this little baby here. So that goes in as well. And no, that's not working. Well, I don't know. So that goes in there, that goes in there. That's okay in there. And then we pop our lid back on just to keep all the heat in. There we go. And the next thing to do is to make sure that the water we're going to use for this, again, because I'm a tight git, I don't use tap water, which I do have there. I use water from the pond. So we've got a submersible pump in the pond which pumps water up. I then connect up the pipes to the ends there in 15 minutes and it will pump through, hopefully cheer the banana tree up and cool everything that's in there, and it will take about 12 minutes. So now it's probably time to go and finish the glass of beer that we started earlier, or the other one, and then we'll come back to this in about 12 minutes time and try and cool it down. There we go. Boil's finished, so ready to cool it as quick as we can. I shall go and get some hose pipes, couple them up to the coil, and then we can pull everything out and see where we go. This one is the flow. Oh, so he goes on that side. See, this is probably where it all goes wrong and leaks everywhere. This little baby goes on up there.
That's the outlet.
That's the outlet. That little chap can come off and go on there. And I'm just going to plug in some water and see what happens. It might have a little shake while it's in there. Sometimes it goes. But it's all fine.
How can you tell it's working? Is it?
Because that pipe gets pretty hot.
Oh, okay.
So this little chap here is getting pretty hot. So we just got free pond water going around the coil, and it's just going to cool it all down.
Excellent.
And the only other thing I do about now is pull the hops out and sit them on there. So we'll turn that like that. This has been sterilised and is ready to go, so that can take. And there we go. And if the lens was any good on the camera, you'd be able to see straight through that because that's clear. And look at that. You give that about 3 weeks and you can be drinking that and enjoying it. I do. Okay, so what we've got, it's all in the fermenting bin, but it's a little bit low. I need to get it up to the 5 gallon mark. And all I'm using here is just cold water straight out the tap. It's gonna need another one. And then once we've got all that in there, there we go. Should be enough. So we're just going to top that up to the mark. I think that's about there. There we go. So by pouring the water in there, we've got a little bit of aeration in there, so we've got a little bit of oxygen going in, which will help the yeast start. And then a little trick, not very hygienic, but if you put your finger in and you can't feel it, it's about the right temperature. And then we just sprinkle a little bit of yeast on that. Come back to that after a week and we'll see where we go from there. Okay, so we're at the stage now where the yeast is going to do its thing for a week, and then after that it comes out and it goes into one of these. And when it's in one of those, it stays in there for 3 weeks, and then I put a glass underneath it, turn the tap and enjoy. I hope this has been informative, and I hope that even if just one person that's looking at this makes beer and enjoys it, it's been worthwhile. Thanks for watching. Hello mate, do you want to go out? Okay, I'll be back in a minute. Oh dear. Lightweights.